For this podcast, I wanted to talk a little bit about graphing. The first thing you need to remember about graphing is all your graphs should be on graph paper. If you don't have graph paper, you can download graph paper from my webpage, or you can also get it by just searching the internet for graph paper. I have it in my class, or you can also use Excel or a different graph program. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure I have a title. And on that title, I want to make it a descriptive title that explains what the information being presented is. Don't put something like candy graph or something like that. That doesn't really tell me what the data is. It has to be a very descriptive title like average mass of Skittle bags from 7th period or something like that. That is what we really need for a descriptive title of your graph. The next thing you want to make sure is that you have the axes. Now the axes should be very thick and dark on your graph, okay? And so something like that, not something that's real hard to see, and it should fill up the most majority of the page. But probably the most important thing is that you want to have your labels and units for your axes. So you want to have both a label and units on your graph. So for example, it could be time, and I'm measuring that in seconds. So it needs to have both the label and the units on there. In general, try to avoid break lines. You'll also want to have a color key if you're using more than one set of data on your graph. You'll want to make sure that you connect the dots using a ruler. Okay, so you have nice straight lines connecting data. You do not want to have lines that aren't straight. You want to have good ruler to connect the lines, and you want to make sure your graph fills the majority of the page. You do not want to have a graph that does not fill most of that page. My general rule of thumb is I will take off points if your graph does not fill at least half the page. That's kind of my minimum requirement. So again, title, axes need to have proper labels and units, key needs to be in color, and size, try to use as much of the page as possible. At the very least, you want to make sure you use at least half the page. Thank you very much.